When it comes to choosing a smartwatch as an Android user, we're used to having a lot of choices, but right now, almost all of the choices are wrong ones. The three watches I have here are essentially the only three that are not going to get left behind with the new Wear OS 3 update. We've talked about this on the channel before, and essentially it means any older Wear OS watches, Samsung watches, or Fitbit watches are going to slowly lose app support, and like I said, just get left behind. The three watches I have here are the newest Galaxy Watch 4, the Fossil Gen 6, and the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra. All are fantastic watches, but which one actually deserves a spot on your wrist? In this video, we're going to dive into these three watches and compare them head to head. I'll show you my testing with accuracy and fitness tracking, as well as the interfaces, the features, the apps, everything else you need to know to figure out which of these is actually the best. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike O'Brien, and like I said, this video is all about the three best Android smartwatches, but I first want to give a little disclaimer that I want to emphasize that these are general utility smartwatches. If you are an extreme athlete or if you're somebody training for a marathon, then there are plenty of other watches out there that are kind of in a different category, like sports watches, the ones from Garmin or Polar or a lot of other brands like that. But as far as general utility smartwatches go, these are the ones you're going to be looking at. The TicWatch, and there are two other TicWatches that are also getting the update, but this is the newest and the best one. The Galaxy Watch, which, like I said, we have the Galaxy Watch 4 and the Galaxy Watch 4 Classic, both released at the same time. Any older Galaxy Watches won't get the update, so this is the one to compare. And the third one is the Fossil Gen 6. So I want to break this video into some categories, including the design, the aesthetics, the compatibility, the overall interface, the app, and of course the battery life, which is going to be really important. And I want to include as much testing as possible, as well as my experience after using all of these watches for at least a week each. So starting off in the first category of the design, you can see that all these watches obviously look different, but not talking about the aesthetic, just looking at the functionality of them, the first main difference, and probably one of the most important ones, is going to be how you navigate the interface. So on the Galaxy Watch, you have a physical rotating bezel on the Galaxy Watch 4 Classic. On the Galaxy Watch 4 regular, you have a touch bezel. On the Fossil Gen 6, you have a rotating crown, and unfortunately on the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra, we don't have anything to spin or move around to navigate the bezel. On top of that, the way these charge is also very different. So the Galaxy Watches both have Qi wireless charging. That's a huge win for the Galaxy Watches, so you can charge this on the back of a flagship Android device or on any other Qi wireless charger, whereas the TicWatch and the Fossil are both going to only charge on their respective chargers that do come in the box. Additionally, the build materials of these devices is going to be a pretty substantial difference. The Galaxy Watch has a pretty wide variety, as Samsung always loves to add like different SKUs for things. They have aluminum bodies, and they also have stainless steel. So if you buy the Classic, it's stainless steel. If you buy the regular, it's aluminum. And with that, you can also notice that the bezel on the Classic is a little more raised, obviously being a rotating bezel, but that is going to do two things. One, it's going to protect your screen from getting scratches, and two, it's going to make it a little bit harder to use your screen, but there is some, there is a reasonable taper on there, so I don't find that it's too difficult. But regardless, both of those do have a really solid build feel. It feels very premium, and that ties right in with the Fossil Gen 6, which I would say also has a very solid build. This one right here is the stainless steel model, and I think that this one just feels really, it's relatively heavy, obviously with the chain links right there, the chain bracelet, but even without that, it's a nice durable feeling design, and it doesn't have any kind of raised bezel, so it looks really nice like the Galaxy Watch 4 Classic without having the inconvenience of having to reach around the bezel when you're navigating on the screen. Now, unfortunately, one of the drawbacks I mentioned with the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra was that the entire body is made out of plastic, and as a model that is the Pro Ultra model, I really did expect them to use some higher quality build on this. Granted, it does have a really good durability and a really good water resistance rating. Another thing to note is, besides the rotating things on here, the bezel and the crown, the Fossil also has an advantage of having that third button. The rotating crown doubles as a third button, which you can use as your back button, your home button, and that gives you the other two to customize for whatever you want. There's not much to say about the buttons on the TicWatch, but the buttons on the Galaxy Watches are a little more flat, a little more subtle, so you don't really see them as much, but they do actually double as health sensors, and I'll talk more about the health tracking later on, but essentially it works for like ECG and body composition and a lot more things like that. One of the big benefits of the TicWatch, however, that the other two do not have is a dual display. So while all of them have a full color touchscreen, The TicWatch also has a secondary display, which allows you to have a much longer battery life, and even when you get down to like 10 or 15%, if you switch to essential mode, you can easily get a much more extended battery life on just this little display right here. And I mean, obviously the internals of these devices are also important. So although this is not technically the exterior design, I want to mention this right here. Inside the Galaxy Watch, we do have more RAM and more storage, being 1.5 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes respectively, versus 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigs of storage on the other two. That is a pretty substantial difference. How much of it you'll actually experience depends on what apps you actually have. The chips in these are also a little bit different. So the Fossil Gen 6 has the Snapdragon 4100, the TicWatch has a 4100 that is customized for the secondary display, and of course Samsung has their own processor in that one. Realistically, they're all very fast, they're all very smooth, and the main difference is really going to be your battery life. But that kind of leads us into the aesthetics of these watches, which is obviously going to be a really important factor when you're choosing a watch you're going to wear every day. And so let's talk about some of the differences. Obviously, you can look at them in this video and you'll see which ones you think look better, but I want to talk about some of the other variations of these as well. The first thing I want to mention is that Fossil is actually the only one of these that is not shipping with a silicone strap. Instead, there are several different ones. You can get a leather strap, you can get this one right here with the chain link bracelet, and granted, you can change all of these out very easily, but the Fossil coming with their own more premium one, I think is a big positive. The Galaxy strap, it comes with a reasonable one, but I replaced both of mine, one with a leather on the Classic and the Extreme Sport Band on the more active variant here, and I highly recommend, if you guys are interested in these straps, go on down, check the links in the description of this video, and of course you can buy whatever strap you want. But when you're buying the straps, something to keep in mind is that you do kind of have a more limited selection with the Galaxy Watch straps. Being that they kind of narrowed the top of the watch where the strap attaches, it might look a little strange if you don't have a Galaxy strap on there. So what I mean by that is if you look at the strap, you can see it kind of has a fishtail design so that it is narrower where it connects to the watch and then it gets wider. So if you just go online and find a 20mm strap and put that on the 46mm Galaxy Watch Classic, it's going to look kind of strange. There are also different colors of each of these, and different variations of size as well. So the Galaxy has kind of 4 different sizes. They have a 40mm and a 44mm for the Galaxy Watch 4, the regular one, and then they have a 42 or 46mm for the Classic. Now, there are 6 different colors, but there's a ton of different looks for combinations you can do. And so, I mean, again, you can check the link in the description and see exactly which color is the best for you. Fossil comes in 2 sizes. There are 4 colors for the 44mm Fossil Gen 6 and 3 colors for the 42mm. Unfortunately, with the TicWatch, you just have 1 color and 1 size. And now getting into one of my favorite categories, the health and fitness tracking. Starting off with just their general capabilities, it's very clear that the Galaxy Watch has a lot more advanced capabilities. From an ECG to body composition, which measures your body fat and muscle, to step asymmetry, to contact time, and all these very detailed analytics to tell you a lot more about your health and your fitness. And while all of these, a lot of them are pretty new, so like blood pressure is not available everywhere yet, but regardless, the capabilities on here are far more advanced than we're seeing on the other 2 competitors in this video. The other 2 do have the basic stuff like stress tracking, sleep tracking, heart rate GPS, basic stuff like that, but they're not going to do more advanced things like ECG and body composition. Looking at the general accuracy, I was never the biggest fan of the Samsung Health app for tracking heart rate. The graph is a little bit hard to see and it's obviously not easy to export, but I found that it does track more accurately with GPS and with heart rate than the other 2. The TicWatch Pro 3 I did have some issues with. I think it was more on the app side, the software side on my phone, as opposed to the actual device itself, and I was using the native Tic Exercise app. If you guys see my full video reviewing the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra, you'll see in there that it wasn't showing my heart rate in the graph and the map was just like, I wasn't able to zoom in. So while I think the watch has capable sensors, I think that the software is definitely what's lagging. The Fossil Gen 6 meets somewhere in the middle where it's reasonably accurate. I found that the heart rate was actually very accurate, but the GPS, I had an issue where it didn't track for the first half mile of my first test run. Even though it said it had GPS enabled and it connected to GPS and knew where it was, it still didn't track the beginning of my run, which was very frustrating. So overall, to summarize the health and fitness, I think the Galaxy Watch is the clear winner here, but none of these obviously are medical devices, for one. And two, if you really want to know the most advanced and accurate metrics for your fitness, then you might want to be a little bit more interested in something like a sports watch from Garmin or from Polar. And I think the Garmin Venue 2 and 2S are probably the easy recommendation here. Digging a bit deeper on the interface of these devices, they're all running Wear OS. The different variation of Wear OS, where you have on the Galaxy Watch technically running Wear OS 3 and it's wrapped in Samsung's own One UI, so it's going to feel slightly different. You also have different watch faces on here, whereas the Wear OS experience on the TicWatch and the Fossil Gen 6 are going to be much more similar. They're both running Wear OS 2, but they are slated to get the Wear OS 3 update, so although I kind of hold that as a drawback right now, the Galaxy Watch already has Wear OS 3, that's nice, but we don't know exactly what Wear OS 3 is going to look like for non-Samsung devices. So it might be nicer, it might not be nicer, but looking at the interfaces right now, what we do know as a difference are first of all, the voice assistant is a big one. On the Galaxy Watch, we have Bixby as the native voice assistant. I really don't like Bixby. I find that even though Bixby is getting better, it still is not great at doing things that I want it to do. Whereas Google Assistant, obviously Google has invested a ton of money, a ton of resources into making that one of the best in the industry, and so having that available on the other two watches, I think is a big positive. When you leave your phone at home, the Galaxy Watches do actually have more functionality than the other two because they do have an LTE variant available. So if you get cell service for this watch, you're able to accept phone calls, use the internet for, Bixby, whatever you want, and of course you're able to reply to messages, listen to Spotify, all types of things like that, which I think is a big benefit if you choose to get the LTE plan. Of course, you don't need to. You can get offline Spotify with all of these, among many other things like that. And while it's really important to know about the interface of the watch, it's also important to know how it pairs with other devices, like your phone, for example. And so, depending on which phone you have, a different device might be a better option for you. First of all, iPhones are probably not the best for any of these. If you have an iPhone, Wear OS 3, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know that Samsung devices right now are not working on iPhone. So, iPhone, I'm sorry, these aren't for you. But for Android devices, you can kind of split it into Samsung phones and non-Samsung phones. The good thing is either one works with all of these devices. But the good thing if you have a Samsung phone is that you already have the two apps you need pre-installed, the Galaxy Wearable and the Samsung Health app. If you have one of the Samsung watches, those are the two apps you will need, which if you don't have a Samsung phone, you can just go and install them and you get almost all the same functionality. If you have the Fossil Gen 6, you really just need the Wear OS app, although you can get other apps like the Fossil app and Google Fit. I would highly recommend getting those. Whereas if you have the TicWatch, again, you can get by with just having Wear OS, but because it comes pre-installed with so many of the Tic apps, which I do find a lot of them are functional, from the Compass app to the voice memo, things like that. If you want to use a lot of the Tic apps, you do have to get the Mobvoi app on your phone, which is not my favorite app. It's a little bit clunky, but it's something that is a nice accessory when you have this, and it definitely is improving. And so far in this video, it might seem like the TicWatch is really falling behind, but the one category where it really pulls ahead is absolutely the battery life. Talking about the battery life on all these devices, I found that the Galaxy Watch is getting me about it depends. I could say a day and a half is a comfortable estimate for how long the battery is going to last here. Probably about 18 hours is more reasonable if you're using it more heavily. And a similar story is to be said for the Fossil Gen 6. Whereas on the TicWatch, I was pretty easily getting just over 3 days. And I told this story already in my original review of the TicWatch, but last week I knew I was going up to New York. And so on Thursday, I charged it up until around noon. So 100% at noon on Thursday. And I lasted until Sunday at about noon when I got down to 15%. And at that time, I switched into essential mode, and that easily got me another day out of the battery until I was able to get home and charge it back up. And then the last category we really need to talk about is the price, which I want to say Galaxy pulls ahead, but they also fall behind here. So it depends on what model you're getting, where the Galaxy Watches have the widest range. They'll go anywhere from $249, which is by far the cheapest in this group, all the way up to $429, which again is by far the most expensive in this group. The TicWatch is $299, being only one variant. That's just what you have to pay for that one. There are some discounts, and I'll put them in the link down in the description. And the Gen 6 is actually ranging from $299 to $319, depending on which one you get. Really, to summarize, out of all these devices, if you are looking for the best bang for your buck, if you're focused on fitness, then obviously the Galaxy Watch is going to be your best bet. Also, if you want to max it out and get an LTE variant, you want a physical rotating bezel, the maxed out Galaxy Watch is going to be a great option there as well. If you're focused heavily on fashion and you really want the best looking watch, I mean, you can leave a comment and let me know which one you think looks best. I'll tell you my opinion. I definitely think the Fossil Gen 6 is the sharpest looking watch out of this group, and for anybody seeking the best battery life, the TicWatch is the best out of this group for that. But if you're just looking for a blanket recommendation, if somebody came up to me and said, hey Mike, I have an Android phone, what watch should I get? Without knowing any more information, I would probably lean more to the Galaxy Watch 4, just the regular, not even the Classic, because I think this is just a general utility watch everybody would like. It's pretty similar to the Apple Watch, and I would say it's really like the Android version of that. So again, leave a comment and let me know which of these three you think is the best watch, or really maybe which of these four, because I'm going to count the Galaxy watches as two different watches. Whichever watch you like, I actually have a full video reviewing that individually. So if you want to know the intricate little details, the pros and cons, the nuances, definitely check out those videos. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. As always, I'm Mike O'Brien. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.